Total productive maintenance is another thing I worked really close with this summer, and that was basically a better way to put it is preventative maintenance. For example, we go to the doctor once a year for a checkup, or we go and get our oil changed every few months or every certain miles so that the car doesn't break down. And it's the same thing with any type of machine. We want to make sure we catch what's wrong with it before it breaks down. Because once we have a machine break down, we're going to lose a lot of money, we're going to lose a lot of time, we're going to lose customers potentially, depending on how long it's down for. For example, one machine every day might put out 500 amount of product. If that machine is down for a week, you lose a lot of money within that week if every one product is $100 to $1,000. It adds up after a while, all because we didn't check the machine and we didn't do a preventative maintenance check on the machine. So to do this, we have a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly checks on the machine in order to make sure that the operators are checking the machine and that the engineers are checking the machine to make sure that it is up to the standard that it should be so that this doesn't happen. Flexible product and process are just making sure that our process is flexible enough and our product is flexible enough so if there are any problems, we can change it quickly so we cut down on the amount of error that we have. And supplier involvement is exactly how it sounds. We want our suppliers to be involved in our process because if they're giving us a bad product, then we create a bad product for our suppliers. So, for our consumers. So we want, obviously, our suppliers to be very involved in our process. So the two columns, as you see, are just-in-time and Jidoka. Just-in-time is the right part at the right time and the right amount, and it's also known as the push-pull system. And the push-pull system has a lot to do with inventory specifically, and that is basically we don't want a lot of inventory. Although most of us probably see inventory as a good thing, it's actually a waste because it takes up a lot of time, a lot of space. It takes up money because we have to pay for that space. The products in the space could go bad depending on, they could go obsolete depending on what type of product we're storing. And also it's putting money out for something that you're not specifically getting money back for right away. So in a perfect world we would have someone order and then make it when they need it and have no inventory. So the just-in-time system is knowing our push-pull system, knowing the right amount of time between when a customer pushes and when we have to pull an item. So knowing how much inventory we need and don't need. Jidoka is built-in quality. It's a, as you can tell, it's a Japanese term. A lot of lean is Japanese terms because a lot of it's based off the Toyota process. And it means built-in quality. So we want to make sure that we're visually controlling our product, that we are error-proofing, seeing that our product is correct before we send it out. Because we don't want, obviously, to send something out that's bad, because when you do, you have to bring it back, you have to rework it, costs a lot of money and time and effort. And a lot of this is just things, like I said, common sense that make sense. You don't want to send out a bad product, because if you send out a bad product, you have unhappy customers. Just like you would be unhappy if you got something that wasn't working. It's the same with a customer in a bigger company. They don't want to tell their customers they don't have something because we as a supplier didn't have it. So I see the top part of the house is best quality, lowest cost, and shortest lead time. The lead time is basically, it might not be something you've heard of before, it's the time between when a person orders it and when we start making it. So we want it to be, like I said, a perfect world. They would order it and we'd make it right away. But that doesn't happen because of our process, of how we're planning, various variables such as that. So by keeping our system lean and by having a better lean system, we can hopefully cut down on our lead time and make it so that our customer gets it quickly and efficiently. So, for who wants what, the customer, as we know, we're all consumers. We want low cost, high quality, and availability. That's our value. And the organization, we want, as an organization you're in, you want money. You want profit and revenue, you want repeat business and continuous growth. And if you don't keep your customers happy, you're not going to have repeat business, and you're not going to grow, because if you can't keep the ones you have, you're not going to keep ones for the future, because you won't have a good reputation. So it's really important to keep the lean practices. They're a great way to keep your customers happy and to continually grow your business. What this graph is about is how we can maintain our profits in a competitive market. As we know, we're in a global economy now. If our customer can't get it from us at a good price, they'll easily go to someone else. So if the customer and the market decides the price. So because of that, drop in sales pressure us to reduce our prices. So the best way that we can deal with that is by using lean practices, because by using lean practices we can reduce our waste through lean, and we can have a greater profit while also keeping our customer happy. So for waste and non-value added activities, as I said before, it's basically anything that adds cost to the product without adding value. So we don't want to add cost to something but not add value. And an example of that would be if we move a product between rooms, and it doesn't need to move between rooms. That adds money to a product because we're wasting time, we're wasting money because we're moving it, and by moving it, it has a chance to break, it has a chance of falling and breaking, but beyond that, it also has a chance of the operator not doing anything else. If they're moving it, they're not working on something, and that means that we have less product coming out at the end of the day. The best example I have for that is something that happened this summer where I was working, and we were doing a 3P, which I don't believe is mentioned in this, but a 3P has to do with setting up your building or in setting up your floor so that it works through a perfect system. You don't want things to go through out of order. You wouldn't do, if it was step 1, 2, 3, you wouldn't do 3, 1, 2 or 1, 3, 2. You want it to go 1, 2, 3. Makes sense, go straight through. I mean, that's an obvious thing. Unfortunately, though, they were doing it between rooms. It wasn't even in the same area. One part was on one side of the floor, the other half of the process was on the other side of the floor. It was a new type of thing they were working, and it didn't make sense how they had it set up. So we did a 3P in order to make sure we could set it up properly. So my job was to see what we were doing and to see how much we were wasting by having it that way. And I come to find out that based on the time that it was taking the operator to move the product, based on how much they weren't making, how long it should have taken, how long it was taking, we found out that in a year span, the operator was just walking, not doing anything else, for a total of 48 hours a year. So for 48 hours, every single year, the operator was walking, not putting a product together, not doing anything else, just moving a product from here to there. 48 hours in total. Now, if you can imagine that one part takes 5 minutes to make, this is 48 hours, and each part probably adds at least $50 to $100 to the product itself. That's a lot of money over 48 hours a year, and that's only for one operator. That's not all the operators, that's one individual operator. If you have 5, 6 operators doing this, it adds up very quickly, and when I showed this to them, we are changing it actually right now, because that's a lot of money to waste just for moving. And that just really shows how lean processes, like I said, they are simplistic thinking, but they're something that companies aren't using. A lot of companies, especially in the United States, seem to be, I've talked to a lot of engineers and a lot of people in upper management about who've been at other companies, and they say that we're about 15 to 20 years behind companies in China, Japan, anything across, anything not here is basically about 15 to 20 years ahead of us in manufacturing and in industry. And this comes down to the fact that we just aren't, we have that old mentality of, like I said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And unfortunately, the other companies are actually using these processes and trying to update it. So now we're starting to realize, finally, that we have to start doing this in order to keep up in a global economy, which is why lean practices are going to be important within the next upcoming years, because we're finally starting to realize that we have to do this, that we have to do this in order to compete with other companies. So anyway, so continuing on with the non-value added activities, it's basically anything the customer is not willing to pay for. The customer wasn't paying for us moving 48 hours a year just walking. They weren't paying for that. They're just paying for us putting the product together. So if you imagine we are wasting, that's how much time we are wasting. And basically, anything that changes the end product, the customer is not willing to pay for. Like I said, that time, they're not paying for that. So it was a waste, and like I said, we're